Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to use the planning calendar in Google Sheets. So the first thing we've got up here is a table of contents. If your work account allows you to use app scripts, there is a way to update the table of contents. It just grabs all the sheet names and puts it in a list. And it's also a checklist so that if you're using this for planning and you want to check off and make sure that like each sheet has been updated with your stuff, you can check it off. So the first thing that we're going to go over is the README. There's like a little introductory message. I'm really grateful for you taking the time to look through this. At the end of this, if you like the spreadsheet and you want to buy me a drink, you can click this link. So let's get into it. There are a couple of sheets where there's some specific places where you can update stuff, and I'll show you these on each tab as we get to them, but there's also a little FAQ tab where you can find that information again. So first up we have the to-do list. Let's see, okay, there we go, to-do list. So the to-do list, you put some tasks here, and if you do control semicolon, you can put a date to separate tasks from new tasks. You can mark them green if they're completed. You can mark them yellow if you want them to be high priority and bold, so they stand out a little bit more. So that is helpful. And then you've got your daily planner, which is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these so we can see it from the beginning. Most spreadsheets, the data is static, so that if you want to rearrange stuff, you got to grab entire rows. This one, if you just type, if you push enter, and then it'll open up a drop-down menu of like all of the lessons that you have available. And if you select a lesson, it will pull all of the information associated with that lesson into that row. You can also start typing a lesson title and it'll start narrowing down the options, and it'll do the same thing. So if you like going by day and just typing in, this is the lesson that I'm going to teach that day, that's one way to do it. Personally, I like to plan my lessons in bulk. So what I do is I come over here to the unit planning tab, and here's a list of all the lessons that are available to teach. You can deselect a lesson if you know you're going to skip that one, and then it'll remove it from this list. You can choose which unit you want to teach, and if you change the units, it'll change which lists pop up here. So let's say I'm going to teach Unit 1, and the start date and end date, let's say I'm going to start on a Monday and I'll finish on a Friday. That will change the list of this length right here, the length of this list. So let's go back and change this to the 18th, and let's say this is going to end on the 18th again. So there's 17 lessons in this list, and there's 24 days available in the unit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and in the override column, I'm going to start putting all of the stuff that I want to do. So usually I'll just grab all of my lessons, and then I'll start with that, and I'll see how much space I have left over. So it looks like I have a little bit more space. And so I might split up the unit in half. Maybe I'll grab this and scoot it down one. Delete this one. And maybe I'll have a mid-unit assessment here. And then down here I'll have like a end of the unit review day, and then a test. And so this combined tab, what it's going to do is it's going to prioritize anything in this list. That's why it's called the override column. And then if this is blank, then it's going to pull stuff from here as well. So it's going to create like this combined thing. So that way, if you know there's something like Labor Day, you don't have to like retype it. It'll come through into this list. Now once you've got this list over here, you can copy the whole list, and this starts on the 18th. You can come back to the daily planner and just copy and paste it here, and now all of the information associated with all of those lessons will autofill. And now you've got this whole unit planned out. Okay, so that takes care of the daily planner and unit planner. And then on this tab is where all of the data is coming from. So This is where the bulk of like the investment, the upfront work happens, is just loading all of this in, just making sure you know what's the learning goal for that day, what are the standards that you're teaching, if there's any like slideshow links or classwork links or what materials you need. That all just goes on here, and it's all linked to a specific lesson name. And this is part of what makes this reusable from year to year, is that this stuff, especially if you have prescribed curriculum, this stuff doesn't change from year to year. It's just when you're teaching the lesson that's the changing part. So next up is the pacing guide. So the pacing guide right here has space for 9 units, and obviously you can edit it. But the way it's set up right now is it has some conditional formatting, which you can see here. If I click on one of these cells down here, yeah, there we go. So there's a lot of conditional formatting in here, and what that's going to do is it's going to let you, there we go. Let's go back to here, pacing guide. So what that's going to let us do is it's going to let us choose like the start date of the unit, and it's going to auto change the colors down here for us. So let's say we want the unit to end on the 18th. That's going to change down here, and let's make sure that this one starts on the 21st. And now you can see that the 18th is the end of my unit 1 and the 21st is the start of my next unit. And so that conditional formatting will work all the way down to the end of the school year. There is an invisible end of the school year right here in D9, so just make sure that you change this date so that the highlighting stops here, because it works backwards from the end of the school year. So remember that it's in D9. It's just invisible so that it doesn't show up when you try to print it. Next we have alignment. So alignment is where we get our standards from, and the standards are pulling from the next tab, which is where we've got the list of standards. It starts here in B because the A column is where the identifier and standards have been joined. But here in alignment, this is also a data validated list. So if I want to start typing the name of any standard, I can just select it from the list, and now it will add it to my list of standards for that lesson, and it'll also create, they'll stack on top of each other in this column. So that way, no matter how many standards you want to associate with a lesson, they'll all just stack together in this column. After that, we have a bunch of different tools. So on the Tools tab, here's just a list of like some ways that I've used these or kind of what they're for. Let's go here to Tools. Okay, and let's look at the first tool. The first tool is a calendar. This is the kind of like the first version of the calendar that I ever created, which was just a simple list. But what I like about it is if I just change the value here in A2 and I make this, the 18th, or let's do 2026. Yeah, let's say your school year, you want it to start here and during this week. So let's change this to the 9th. And make sure that this says Sunday, because you want to pick a Sunday. So this creates all of the dates and the weekdays and the week ranges out for that. And then if you want to change this list right here, if you delete any of these week numbers, the rest of the list will auto update. So if you get rid of like winter break or spring break, then your list will auto update. And let's go back to here. Okay, so we've covered this one and this one. So now we're back on a dynamic calendar. So this calendar is like a printable one. So if we zoom out a little bit, you can see it's got all the months and stuff here out to 12 months. And for this one, you just need to change August. So let's say I want to make this the next year. Let's say I want to make this August 1st, 2027. Now the year changes and all the rest of the months have changed to be the right dates for August 2027. So I'll go ahead and bring this back to August 2026. So this calendar is reusable as long as you want. And it doesn't even have to be, you don't even have to select the first day of the month, because the way the formulas Actually, no, you do need to select the first day of the month. I have a different version that it doesn't matter which day you select, but this one, you want to make sure that's the first day of that month. And then next we have a school calendar. So this is the same thing, except instead of formulas, it's all just been like fixed values, so that if you wanted to edit something and say like, you know, happy birthday or something, you'd be able to type those in. On the next couple of tabs, I just put like district calendars. So here's my district's calendar, and then bell schedule. Here's my school's bell schedule. I'll just have those as reference so I don't have to look them up when I'm like lesson planning. There's a tab that I use for like changes, because I'm always trying to improve things. So you can just pick a topic and you say like before, maybe I did separate handouts, now I want to do packets, and that way you can kind of think to yourself about how you want to change things, just a little space for reflection. There's a tab here for grading progress, which is where you can, you know, check your different periods and how close you are to updating the grades for those assignments. You can put due dates and deadlines and pick, you know, what date the thing was assigned. If you type in a lesson, there's a list over here that will auto number. So if you do. And if you wanted to, you could also link this all the way back to that lessons tab so that it's also a drop down. But some people have like other assignments that don't show up as lesson titles, so you can do with that as you want. There's a lesson planning timer. I often love to track like how much time I spend planning my lessons, so that I don't go too over, or don't spend too little time, because you want to make sure that it's a good lesson. And so if you do a control semicolon, you can pick the day here, and if you type in lesson 3, you can do control shift semicolon, which is the same thing as control colon, to pick a start time and then pick an end time, and it'll calculate some statistics for you. I also find it helpful to have just a little comment bank if I have some comments that I want to copy and paste into Canvas and I want to send them to multiple students. You know, you can do that. If your district allows you to use AppScript, there's a tool in here called Send Emails. So if I choose, for example, if I choose a parent's name from the list, it will pull up their email in the column next to it, and then I can choose a subject, and I can choose a message. So I'll choose this one right here. And then if I click scripts, well, make sure I have a signature. I want to do that too. And then all I have to do is be on this cell, and I can choose multiple if I want. I could send both of these. They don't even have to be right next to each other. But if I select send emails, then it's going to say running script, and then it'll say finished, and these emails just got sent to me. And I'm going to show you right here on my phone that just got an email right there. Just got this email that was just sent to me right now. And then there's also here some like getting to know you questions, some icebreakers. And right now it's broken up into groups of 3, but if you wanted to change this, you definitely could. I think it's right here where it says wrap rows. This last number right here determines how many columns you want it to be. So if you want like 5 questions per day, all of the rest, everything else will auto update. So it'll just rearrange it into groups of 5. Okay, so that is the planning calendar. Again, if you like this calendar and you want to say thank you, you can go to this link and you can send me over some cash so I can buy myself a drink. Thank you so much for watching, and happy planning!